Part 1. The man in holding. The captain turned pale. He walked to Cale's desk, voice low. That man you arrested, his name is Torres. Cale looked up from the paperwork spread across his desk. Rain tapped softly against the precinct windows, a steady rhythm that had accompanied him through the long night. He had just finished logging evidence from the arrest, a routine job, or so he thought. Torres, he repeated. The name meant nothing to him. He flipped through his notes. Miguel Torres, small-time operator caught moving stolen tablets and phones out of the old harbor warehouses. Nothing special, just another low-level crook trying to make a quick profit. Not Miguel, the captain said, his voice barely above a whisper. Alonso Torres. Cale felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain outside. Alonso Torres was a ghost, a name spoken in hushed tones by veteran officers, a name attached to files so old they had been moved to storage boxes in the basement. He disappeared years ago, Cale said, more to himself than to the captain. Everyone thought he was dead or in another country living under a new name. The captain pulled up a chair but did not sit. He gripped the back of it, his knuckles white. You brought him in yourself? Cale nodded. We got a tip about a shipment coming through Warehouse 7 down by the docks. Plainclothes surveillance confirmed it. We moved in fast. Torres did not run, did not resist. He just stood there watching us like he was expecting visitors. He even smiled when I put the cuffs on him. That is what worries me, the captain said. Cale leaned back in his chair. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sickly glow on the captain's face, which had not regained its color. What is going on? Why does this arrest have you spooked? He is just a thief. Just a thief, the captain repeated the words as if tasting something bitter. 12 years ago 3 officers from this very precinct turned up dead in the river, their service weapons beside them. Each one had been investigating Torres. Each one got too close. Cale knew the case. It was department legend, a cold case that haunted the older detectives, but Torres was never charged, never even brought in for questioning. The evidence vanished, witnesses disappeared, the case went cold, and Torres with it. So why come back now? Cale asked. Why walk into our hands after all this time? I do not know, the captain said, but I do know this: Alonso Torres does not make mistakes. He does not get caught unless he wants to be caught. Cale stood up, his body stiff from hours at the desk. Let us talk to him. The walk to the holding area felt longer than usual. Every step echoed in the quiet hallway. The night shift was winding down, officers packing up for the morning shift change, but no one seemed in a hurry to leave. The air felt heavy, charged with something unspoken. Through the reinforced glass of interrogation room 2, Cale saw him. Alonso Torres sat perfectly still at the metal table, his posture straight, his hands resting gently on the surface. He wore a simple gray coat, clean jeans, polished shoes, not the attire of a man caught in a back alley deal. He looked like a businessman waiting for a meeting to begin. Cale entered alone, leaving the captain outside to observe through the glass. Torres looked up as the door closed. A faint smile touched his lips. Detective, he said, your reputation precedes you. Cale took the seat opposite him. How do you know my name? Torres tilted his head slightly. I make it my business to know people, especially those who might one day find themselves sitting across from me. You solved the Vasquez case 3 years ago, the one everyone said was unsolvable. Cale stiffened. That case was sealed, limited access. How do I know things? Torres finished for him. Knowledge is my trade, detective, not stolen electronics or cheap thrills. I deal in information, and information has value far beyond what most people understand. You let us catch you, Cale said. It was not a question. Torres nodded slightly. I needed to speak with someone inside the department, someone with integrity, someone not on the payroll. The payroll, Cale repeated. There are names, Torres said, that should not be spoken in these halls, names of people who wear badges but serve other masters. I have been away a long time, but the rot remains, perhaps worse than before. Why come back now? Because the city is changing, Torres said. New players, new threats. The old rules no longer apply, and some people are getting nervous. They do not like that I am back. They do not like that I remember things. What things? Torres leaned forward just slightly, his voice dropping, though they were alone in the room. I remember a safe deposit box at First National Bank, box number 417. I remember a captain who visited that box late one night 12 years ago, the night before those 3 officers were found in the river. Kale felt his breath catch the captain outside. That very captain. You cannot prove anything, Torres said softly. I do not need to. The captain knows I know, and that is enough. Now he will be forced to make a choice: cooperate or watch his career vanish overnight. This is blackmail. No, Torres said, this is leverage. I have spent years building a network of truths that can destroy or redeem depending on how they are used. I am not here to destroy the department, detective. I am here to clean it. Kale studied the man across from him. Torres showed no fear, no arrogance, just calm certainty, the kind that comes from knowing you hold all the cards. What do you want from me? Your help, Torres said. There is a ledger, a record of every transaction, every payoff, every name and date. It is hidden somewhere. Only a handful of people know its location. I believe it is still here in the city, protected by those who would rather see this place burn than lose their power. And you think I can find it? I know you can. You have a gift for seeing what others miss, for following threads others consider dead ends. The Vasquez case proved that. Kale stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. I do not work for criminals. Torres did not move. You work for justice, do you not? Sometimes justice requires uncomfortable alliances. The door opened. The captain stood there, his face drawn. He had heard enough through the speaker. Leave us alone, he told Kale, his voice rough. Kale hesitated but stepped out into the hallway, closing the door behind him. Through the glass he watched the captain sink into the chair he had just vacated. Torres said something Kale could not hear. The captain's shoulders slumped. He looked old suddenly, the weight of years pressing down on him. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally the captain emerged, his eyes red-rimmed. He motioned for Kale to follow him back to his office. Once inside, blinds drawn, door locked, the captain sank into his chair behind the desk. He knows Kale, the captain whispered, everything about the box, about that night. I was young, stupid, thought it was just one time, just one favor that would never come back to haunt me. What did he want? He wants me to open doors for him, access to old case files, personnel records, anything that might lead him to this ledger. He says it contains names of people still in power, people who would kill to keep it hidden. Do you believe him? The captain looked at Kale, his gaze steady. For the first time tonight, Alonso Torres never lied, not about important things he might omit, he might mislead, but when he speaks a direct truth, it is always true. He knows about the box, Kale. No one else alive knows except me. What are you going to do? The captain was silent for a long time. Rain streaked the window behind him, the city lights blurred through the water. I do not know, he admitted, but I do know this: Torres did not come back after 12 years to steal tablets from a warehouse. He came back for a reason, and that reason is still here somewhere in the city waiting. Kale thought about the calm man in the interrogation room, the way he sat so still, so certain. What if he is telling the truth? What if he really wants to expose the corruption? Then we are faced with an impossible choice, the captain said. Trust a ghost who may be using us for his own ends, or ignore him and let the rot continue. I cannot make this decision alone. Kale looked toward the holding area where Torres waited patiently. Neither can I, he said. But someone had to decide, and the night was growing old, with morning not far away, and with morning would come the day shift, the paperwork, the official reports, and the moment when Alonso Torres would either walk free or be processed into the system. And Kale knew with a cold certainty that whichever path they chose, nothing would ever be the same again. The night stretched long after the captain left, Kale standing alone in the hallway. Rain fell harder now, drumming against the precinct windows, a steady rhythm that matched the pounding in his chest. He looked through the glass at Torres, still sitting perfectly still, hands folded on the metal table as if he had all the time in the world. Kale made a decision. He walked back into the interrogation room, the door clicking shut behind him. Torres looked up, his eyes calm, steady. You came back, the older man said. I have questions, Kale said, pulling out the chair and sitting again. Why tell the captain about the safe deposit box? Why threaten him? It was not a threat, Torres replied. It was an invitation. He has carried that secret for 12 years. It has aged him. It has shaped every decision he has made since that night. Now he can either continue hiding or he can help set things right. You speak like a reformer, Kale said, but your file tells a different story. Weapons trafficking, money laundering, 3 officers dead. The officers were not killed by my hand, Torres said, his voice even. 3 good men got too close to people more dangerous than me. They were silenced by those same people who still walk these halls today wearing badges, smiling at children at parades. Kale studied him, searching for a flicker of deception, but found none, only quiet certainty. Where is this ledger you mentioned? Hidden, Torres said, in a place no one would think to look, protected by time and by fear. I disappeared not because I was afraid of prison, but because I knew staying would mean death, and I had work left unfinished. What work? Cleaning the city, Torres said simply. Not all of it, not in one lifetime, but starting with the poison inside these walls, the men and women who take money to look away while children suffer, while families lose everything, while justice becomes a commodity sold to the highest bidder. You expect me to believe you are some kind of vigilante? I expect nothing, Torres said. I offer information. I offer a chance to do what is right, not what is easy. You have a choice, detective. Walk away, file your report, let the system process me like any other arrest, or listen and learn why I walked into your hands tonight. Kale leaned forward, elbows on the table. What do you want me to do? Help me find the ledger, Torres said, before others realize I am here, before they decide it is safer to have me disappear permanently again. Who are these others? People who have grown comfortable in their power, people who believe the past stays buried. I have been gone 12 years, but secrets have a way of resurfacing, especially when someone starts digging. Kale stood pacing the small room, 3 steps one way, 3 steps back, the hum of the fluorescent light above them the only sound besides their breathing. Why me, Torres? Why not go to internal affairs? Why not the press? Because they are compromised, Torres said simply. The corruption runs deeper than most imagine. It has roots in places people do not look. It hides behind good deeds, behind charity events, behind family photos on desks. You cannot trust the system to clean itself, detective. You must work within it, but outside its rules. That sounds like vigilantism again. It sounds like survival, Torres corrected. The truth is not always found in courtrooms. Sometimes it is found in shadows. Sometimes justice requires working in those same shadows to bring light back inside. Kale stopped pacing, facing Torres directly. How do I know you are not manipulating me? How do I know this ledger even exists? You do not, Torres said, and that is the risk. You must decide if the possibility of truth is worth the risk of being used. I cannot prove anything to you, not yet, but I can show you where to start looking. Kale waited. There is a janitor who has worked this precinct for 30 years, Torres said. His name is Leo. He cleans the basement archives every Tuesday and Thursday nights. He has seen things he was never meant to see. He has kept quiet out of fear, but he remembers a night 12 years ago when 3 senior officers came down after hours. They were not supposed to be there, but Leo saw them. He saw what they carried, a small metal box they placed inside a false wall behind the old boiler. Kale felt his pulse quicken. The basement archives had been sealed off years ago after a water leak damaged records. No one had been down there in over a decade. You expect me to break into a sealed basement based on the word of a man who may or may not exist? Leo exists, Torres said. Room 3B in the Cedar Heights apartments. He takes the bus home every night at 10:15. He has a daughter who works at the public library. She visits him every Sunday with groceries and a book. He likes historical biographies, particularly about explorers. These are details anyone could learn. Anyone could learn his address, his routine, his daughter's job, Torres said, but not that he keeps a small wooden carving on his windowsill, a bird he made for his wife before she passed, not that he hums old jazz tunes while he works, not that he is afraid of the dark because as a boy he was locked in a closet for hours as punishment. These are not details you find in a file, detective. These are truths you learn by knowing a person. Kale sat again, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. What happens if I find this box? Then you will have a choice, Torres said. The same choice I am giving your captain, the choice between comfort and conscience. Most people choose comfort. It is easier, safer, but some people choose conscience, and those people change the world in small, quiet ways. And if I do not find it? Then you will have your answer about me, Torres said, and you can walk away knowing you tried. You can return to your desk, your cases, your life untouched by ghosts from the past. Kale looked at the two-way glass, knowing the captain watched from the other side. What happens to you tonight? I will remain here, Torres said, in this room behind this glass until morning, at which point your captain will have to decide whether to process me or let me walk free. He is wrestling with that decision now as we speak. You seem certain he will let you go. I am not certain of anything, Torres said, but I understand people, and your captain has spent 12 years haunted by one decision. He will not make another one lightly, especially not when that decision might finally offer him a path toward redemption. Redemption is not yours to offer. No, Torres agreed, it is not, but I can offer the opportunity. The rest is up to him, up to you, up to the choices you make when no one is watching. Kale stood again, this time with purpose. I will look into Leo. Torres gave a slow nod, not a smile, not a gesture of victory, just acknowledgement. Be careful, detective, he said. The people who want that ledger to stay hidden have long memories and little patience. They will not hesitate to remove obstacles. I am a detective, Kale said. I am trained to handle threats. These are not ordinary threats, Torres said. They do not come with sirens or drawn weapons. They come quietly in the form of transferred assignments, sudden audits, unexpected early retirement offers. They make problems disappear without ever breaking a law. Kale reached for the door handle. One more thing, Torres said. Kale paused, hand on the metal. The ledger is not just names and dates, Torres said. It contains something else, something more dangerous than corruption. It contains a pattern that connects to something much larger happening right now in the city, something that has nothing to do with stolen electronics or warehouse deals. What kind of pattern? A pattern of disappearances, Torres said. Young people, mostly runaways, foster kids. No one looks for hard enough. Their cases go cold within weeks, but they are not random. They are connected, and the connection leads back to people inside this department, people who have been here a long time. Kale felt a coldness spread through him. He thought of the missing persons files stacked on his desk, cases he had been unable to close. No leads, no witnesses, just empty spaces where young lives used to be. How do you know this? Because I have been watching, Kale, Torres said. Even from far away, even in hiding, I have been watching, and now I am back because the pattern is accelerating and someone has to stop it before more lives are lost. Kale opened the door, stepping into the hallway. The captain stood there waiting, his face lined with exhaustion and something else, something like hope, fragile, uncertain, but present. Well, the captain asked, his voice rough. He gave me a name, Kale said. A place to start looking. The captain nodded slowly, then looked through the glass at Torres, still sitting calmly at the table. Do you believe him? I do not know, Kale admitted, but I know this: if there is even a chance he is telling the truth about those missing kids, we have to look. The captain was silent for a long moment, then he reached into his pocket and placed a key on Kale's palm. The basement archives, he said. The seal was broken last month during renovations. No one has noticed yet. Go tonight while the building is quiet. Go alone. Kale closed his fingers around the cold metal. What about Torres? The captain looked at the man through the glass. We will hold him until morning, Kale, he said softly, but I have a feeling by then he will no longer be our prisoner. Kale walked away down the hallway toward the stairwell that led to the basement. Each step echoed in the empty building. Somewhere above him rain continued to fall, washing the streets clean. But some stains, Kale knew, ran too deep for rain to reach. And tonight he would see for himself whether ghosts like Torres came back to haunt the living or to save them. The stairwell door creaked as he pushed it open. Darkness waited below. And somewhere in that darkness a truth waited too. Whether it would set him free or destroy everything he believed about his job, his city, his purpose. That was a question only time would answer. And time, as Torres had shown tonight, was a currency some people had learned to spend very carefully indeed. Part 3: The Basement Archives. The stairwell descended into darkness, each step colder than the last. Kale moved slowly, his flashlight cutting a narrow beam through the gloom. Dust motes floated like tiny ghosts in the light. The air smelled of damp concrete and old paper, the kind of smell that clung to forgotten places. He reached the bottom landing. A heavy metal door stood before him. Rust streaked its surface. A faded notice warned of structural damage and unauthorized entry prohibited. The key the captain had given him felt heavy in his hand. He inserted it, turned. The lock clicked open with a sound that seemed too loud in the silence. Beyond the door lay the archives, a vast room stretching into shadow. Rows of metal shelves stood like silent sentinels, stacked with cardboard boxes, files, folders, records of cases long closed, lives long altered, decisions that had shaped the city in ways no one remembered anymore. Water stains bloomed across the ceiling tiles, some had collapsed, leaving piles of soggy debris on the floor. A single bare bulb hung from a wire in the center of the room. Someone had left it on, casting a weak yellow glow that did little against the overwhelming dark. Cale moved forward, his boots crunching on broken plaster. According to Torres, the old boiler room lay at the far end, past the shelves marked 1998 to 2003. He walked carefully, stepping around puddles left by the leak that had supposedly sealed this place years ago. The puddles were dry now, just dark stains on the concrete floor. Something felt wrong. Too clean. The water damage looked real enough: collapsed ceiling tiles, soaked boxes spilling their contents onto the floor, but the dry puddles, the lack of mold, the absence of the deep damp smell that should have permeated everything. Someone had been down here recently. He reached the boiler room, a small space walled off from the main archives. The old furnace stood silent, a hulking metal beast covered in dust. Pipes snaked along the walls, disappearing into the darkness above. And there behind it, just as Torres had said, a section of wall that looked different. Cale ran his hands along the concrete blocks, one shifted slightly under his touch. He pushed harder. A section of wall swung inward with a soft groan, revealing a narrow space behind it, not large enough for a person, just a shallow recess in the foundation. And inside, a small metal box sat waiting. His breath caught. It was real. Torres had told the truth. He reached in, his fingers brushing cold metal as he lifted the box out. It was lighter than he expected, small enough to fit in his palm. He carried it to the circle of light beneath the bare bulb, set it down on an overturned crate, and opened the latch. Inside, no ledger. No pages of names and dates. Just a single photograph. He picked it up, his hands trembling slightly. The image showed three young officers in uniform, arms around each other, smiling, the kind of easy, confident smiles that came before life taught you its hardest lessons. Cale recognized two of them from cold case files, officers who had died 12 years ago, found in the river, their service weapons beside them. The third officer, his face clear in the center of the photograph, was the captain. Cale stared at the image, the smiling young man full of hope, standing between two friends who would soon be dead. Beneath the photograph, a folded slip of paper. He opened it. 3 words written in neat, careful script. He knows nothing. Cale read the words again, then a third time, the meaning shifting each time he looked at them. Did it mean the captain knew nothing about the murders? Or that the captain knew nothing about the ledger? Or that Torres knew nothing and this was all an elaborate deception? A sound broke the silence. Footsteps above. Slow, deliberate. Coming down the stairwell. Cale snapped the box shut, shoved it into his jacket pocket, and killed his flashlight. Plunging himself into near darkness, he moved behind a row of shelves, pressing his back against cold metal, heart hammering in his chest. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs, paused. A beam of light swept across the room, methodical, thorough. Whoever was down here knew the layout, knew where to look. The light passed over the open section of wall behind the boiler. A soft curse whispered in the dark. They knew someone had been here. Cale held his breath. The footsteps moved closer, slow, careful, each step placed with precision. He could see the edge of the flashlight beam cutting between boxes just feet from his hiding place. Then a voice, not loud but clear enough to carry in the silence. Detective Cale. It was the captain. Cale stepped out from behind the shelves. The captain stood holding a heavy flashlight, his face drawn in the uneven light. He looked older than he had just an hour ago, the weight of the photograph already pressing down on him, though he had not yet seen it. You should not be here, the captain said, his voice flat. I found something, Cale said. I know, the captain replied. I saw the wall was open. You knew about this place, Cale said, not a question. The captain nodded slowly. 12 years ago, after they died, after my friends were pulled from the river, I came down here. I needed to understand what they had been investigating, what had gotten them killed. I found that box, but it was empty, then just an empty container hidden behind a false wall. Why did you not report it? And say what? The captain asked. That my dead friends had been hiding an empty box in a basement. What would that have proven, except that they were keeping secrets from all of us, including me? Cale reached into his pocket, pulled out the box. It is not empty anymore. The captain took it, his hands steady despite the tremor in his voice. He opened it, saw the photograph, saw himself young and smiling between two men whose lives had ended violently and too soon. His breath hitched a small broken sound. He knows nothing, he read aloud, then looked at Cale. What does it mean? I was hoping you could tell me. The captain stared at the photograph for a long time, his thumb tracing the faces of his dead friends. They were good men, he said. They believed in this job in the city, in doing what was right. They started noticing things, payments that did not add up, cases that closed too quickly, suspects who walked free despite overwhelming evidence. They told me to stay out of it for my own safety. I should have listened, I should have ignored them, but I did not. I followed them one night, watched them come down here. I saw them hide that box. And then they died, the captain said. 3 days later, their bodies found in the river. The official report said they had been working an undercover operation that went wrong, but I knew better. They had gotten close to something big enough that people in power felt threatened enough to kill officers of the law in cold blood. Did you ever find out what they discovered? No, the captain said. The investigation was shut down quickly, too quickly. Internal affairs took over, then quietly closed the case due to lack of evidence. Witnesses changed their stories, evidence disappeared. It was as if the entire department wanted the truth to stay buried. Cale thought about Torres sitting calmly in the interrogation room, offering pieces of a puzzle no one else knew existed. Torres says there is a ledger, he said, a record of everything, payments, names, dates. He says it is still here in the city, protected by people who do not want it found. The captain looked up, his eyes glistening in the dim light. I spent 12 years believing my friends died for nothing, that their investigation led nowhere, that they had chased shadows and paid with their lives. But this, he held up the photograph, this changes everything. Someone put this here recently. Someone knew you would come looking. Someone is playing a game with us. Or trying to help us, Cale said. Or both, the captain replied. A game with rules we do not understand yet. A new sound broke the silence, not footsteps this time, but a soft electronic chirp. Cale pulled his phone from his pocket, a text message from an unknown number. Check the box again. He looked at the captain, who nodded. Cale opened the metal box again, this time examining it more carefully. The interior seemed plain smooth metal, but when he ran his fingers along the bottom he felt a slight ridge, a seam he had missed before. He pressed. A hidden compartment clicked open. Inside, a small USB drive and another note. The drive contains everything they found before they died. The note read, the ledger was never written down, too dangerous. They recorded their findings digitally. This is all that remains. Do not trust anyone, not even those who seem to help you. The corruption goes deeper than you imagine. Cale held the drive between his fingers, a tiny piece of plastic that might hold the truth about 3 dead officers, about a captain haunted by guilt, about a city slowly rotting from within. What do we do now? The captain asked. We find a secure computer, Cale said, somewhere off the grid, somewhere no one can trace or monitor. The captain nodded slowly, then looked toward the stairwell. We also need to decide what to do with Torres. By morning he will either be processed into the system or released into the city. If he is released, he becomes a target. If he is kept here, he becomes a liability. Either way, people will know he is back, and those people will act quickly. Cale thought about the calm man in the interrogation room, who had walked willingly into custody, who had offered truths wrapped in mysteries, who had spoken of missing young people and patterns no one else had noticed. He did not feel like a criminal. But then the best manipulators never did. We protect him, Kale said. For now we keep him here under minimal guard, no paperwork filed yet, just unofficial holding. We buy ourselves time to verify what is on this drive, time to understand what Torres really wants. The captain studied him for a long moment, then nodded. You have changed since tonight began, he said. You walked in here believing in clear lines between right and wrong, between guilt and innocence. Now you understand that some truths live in the gray spaces between those lines. Kale looked around the basement archives, at the forgotten records, the closed cases, the lives reduced to paper and ink. Maybe the job was never about finding clear answers, he said. Maybe it was about having the courage to ask difficult questions even when the answers might destroy everything you thought you knew. The captain placed a hand on his shoulder, a rare gesture of connection between them. Then let us start asking those questions together. They left the basement together, climbing the stairs into the world above, where morning light had begun to filter through the precinct windows, pale and tentative like hope itself. Somewhere in interrogation room 2 Torres waited. Somewhere in the city people who had killed before were watching. And in Kale's pocket a tiny drive held secrets that could save lives or end them. The choice of what to do next belonged to him alone. And choices once made could never be taken back. Part 4. The weight of truth. Morning light filtered through the precinct windows, pale and thin like weak tea. Kale sat in a small evidence review room far from the main bullpen. The door locked, the blinds drawn. Before him a laptop disconnected from all networks, a clean machine used for sensitive materials. Only the USB drive rested on the desk between his hands. He looked at the captain who stood by the door, arms crossed, face unreadable. Do it, the captain said, his voice low. Kale inserted the drive, the computer words softly booting up. A single folder appeared labeled 98 investigation. Inside dozens of audio files, scanned documents, photographs, timestamps stretching across 6 months, 12 years ago, the final months of 3 officers' lives. Kale clicked the first audio file, a voice young, confident, filled with purpose. This is Officer Davis. Day 42 of our unofficial inquiry. We have confirmed payments from Harbor Security to Lieutenant Wells totaling $23,000 over 3 months, payments that do not appear in any official record. Kale recognized the name. Lieutenant Wells retired 5 years ago with full honors, a respected member of the community, a man who had spoken at police academy graduations. He clicked another file, Officer Mitchell, day 57. We followed the money trail. It does not stop at Wells, it moves upward through shell companies into property holdings downtown. The pattern is clear. This is not random corruption, it is organized, systematic. People at the top are protected by people in the middle who are protected by people on the street. It is a pyramid and we are digging at the foundation. Kale felt a coldness spread through him. These were not rogue officers taking bribes, these were men documenting a system, a network of corruption that reached into the highest levels of city government. He opened a photograph file, grainy images taken from a distance, men in suits meeting with known criminals in parking lots behind warehouses. One face appeared repeatedly, a man Kale recognized instantly, the current deputy chief of police, the second most powerful person in the department. The captain made a small sound behind him. Kale looked back. The older man had gone pale, his hands gripping the door frame for support. I knew they were investigating something, he whispered, but not this, not this deep. There is more, Kale said, his voice barely audible. He opened the final folder labeled Missing Persons Connection. What is that? The captain asked. Torres mentioned it, Kale said, before his arrest. He said the ledger contains a pattern of disappearances, young people, runaways, foster kids. No one searches for long enough. The files loaded slowly, photographs of young faces, smiling, school portraits, holding pets, standing with family members, case numbers, dates, last seen, locations, and beside each photograph a notation, a single word or phrase that made no sense at first. Warehouse 7. Harbor View Apartments, the old train yard, Cedar Park Bridge. Kale scrolled further, then he saw it. Each location corresponded to a property owned by one of the officers or officials named in the earlier corruption files. Lieutenant Wells owned Warehouse 7, the deputy chief owned the Harbor View Apartments, another corrupt officer owned property near the old train yard. The pattern was not random, the disappearances were not random. These young people had not simply vanished, they had been taken. Placed somewhere controlled by the very people sworn to protect them. Kale felt sick. He opened an audio file dated the day before the three officers died. This is Davis Day 89. We have enough to bring this to internal affairs, but we are being watched. Our phones are tapped, our movements followed. We believe someone inside the department knows what we are doing. Mitchell thinks we should go public tomorrow. We agree this cannot wait any longer. These children deserve justice, and the city deserves to know who is really in charge here. The recording ended with static. The next file was dated 3 days later. An internal affairs report: case closed due to lack of evidence, no bodies recovered, no suspects identified, investigation terminated. Kale removed the drive, his hands trembling slightly. They were killed because of this, he said, because they were about to expose not just corruption but trafficking of vulnerable young people. The captain sank into the chair beside him, his head in his hands. For a long time he did not speak. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red-rimmed but clear. I have spent 12 years believing my friends died chasing shadows, he said, believing their deaths were a tragedy but meaningless. Now I know they died for something real. They died because they refused to look away while children suffered. That is not a meaningless death, Kale. That is the opposite of meaningless, but the system covered it up. Kale said the people responsible are still in power. Some have even been promoted. Yes, the captain said, and now Torres is back, and somehow he knows about this pattern. He knows about the missing children. He walked into our hands to restart an investigation that was buried 12 years ago. Why now? Kale asked. Why after all this time? Because the pattern is accelerating, the captain said. You said Torres mentioned that the disappearances are happening more frequently now. He is right. I have seen the missing persons reports piling up on desks, officers treating them as low priority runaways, not worth serious investigation. But the numbers do not lie, Kale. 3 times as many missing youth this year compared to last, and nearly all from the same neighborhoods, the same backgrounds. Kale thought about the young faces on the screen, children with hopes and dreams erased from the world without anyone powerful enough to care. We have to act, he said. How? The captain asked. We have a USB drive with old evidence but no chain of custody, no official documentation. If we bring this to internal affairs, the same people who buried it 12 years ago will bury it again. We need proof that connects the past to the present, proof that cannot be ignored. As if answering his question, Kale's phone vibrated on the desk. A text from an unknown number again. Warehouse 7 tonight 9 p.m. A delivery van, white Ford plates, Lmo 429, will arrive with 2 occupants. They are not delivering electronics. Check the back yourself, but go alone. Do not trust anyone who offers to accompany you. Kale showed the captain the message. It is a trap, the captain said. It has to be, or it is proof. Kale replied. Torres has been right about everything so far. The basement, the photograph, the hidden compartment, the missing persons pattern. What if this is real? What if we can catch them in the act? And what if you walk into an ambush? The captain asked. You will be alone, no backup, no record of where you are going. They could make you disappear like those officers 12 years ago, like those children on the screen. Kale looked at the photographs again, at the young faces frozen in time. Someone has to take the risk, he said. Not you, the captain said. I will go. Kale started to protest, but the captain held up a hand. Listen, I have spent 12 years running from the truth, hiding behind my rank, my position, my fear. Tonight I stop running. Those were my friends in those recordings. My failure to stand with them cost them their lives. I will not fail again, not when children are still at risk. But you are the captain, Kale said. If something happens to you, the entire department will notice. They will investigate. Exactly, the captain said, which is why I will not go alone. I will take 2 officers I trust completely, officers who worked with Davis and Mitchell, who believe in this job the way it was meant to be done. We will go together. We will document everything, and we will bring proof back that cannot be buried. Kale felt a flicker of hope for the first time since Torres had been brought in. What about Torres? The captain stood straightening his uniform. We release him. Kale stared at him. He is our only connection to this investigation. He is also a target, the captain said. If the people behind this know Torres is in our custody, they will move against him or against us to silence him. Better to let him walk free. Let him believe we are working with him while we conduct our own investigation with proper procedure, proper documentation. It feels like betrayal sometimes, Doing the right thing requires difficult choices, the captain said. Torres chose to trust us with a piece of the truth. Now we must choose how to use that truth wisely, not recklessly. Kale nodded slowly, understanding the weight of the decision. When do we move tonight? The captain said. 9 p.m. at Warehouse 7. I will assemble my team discreetly. No official records, no radio traffic. We go in quiet, we come out with proof, or we do not come out at all. The captain left the room, closing the door softly. Behind him Kale sat alone with the laptop screen dark now, the USB drive back in his pocket. He thought about the 3 officers who had died for doing their job. He thought about the children whose faces he had just seen. He thought about Torres sitting in an interrogation room, trusting that his gamble would pay off, that someone inside the system still cared enough to act. And he thought about the captain finally choosing to stand up after 12 years of silence. Kale made his own decision. He would not wait for 9 p.m. He would go to Torres first, not to release him, not to interrogate him, but to look him in the eye and ask one simple question: how many children are still alive? Because if even one child could be saved tonight, then every risk, every danger, every shadow they would have to walk through would be worth it. He stood leaving the review room, walking down the hallway toward holding. Through the glass he saw Torres still sitting calmly, hands folded on the table, as if he had never moved. As if he had been waiting not just for hours but for 12 long years for this moment, for someone to finally listen. Kale opened the door. Torres looked up, his eyes meeting Kale, not with triumph, not with manipulation, but with something quieter, something human. You found it, he said. Not a question. We found it, Kale replied, and we believe you. Torres gave a slow nod, the first genuine expression Kale had seen from him, not a smile but something deeper, relief perhaps, or the lifting of a burden carried too long. Then we have work to do, he said. Together outside the precinct, clouds gathered over the city. Night was coming, and with it a chance, not for revenge, not for glory, but for justice. Small, quiet, fragile, but real, and sometimes that was enough.